How's it going, YouTube? op.poker James here. So today we're going to be doing a session review of I Hate Spooning's play. Before we jump into that video, I want to remind you all that we do have a low stakes spin and go course. If you've already purchased it, you should be aware that there is some new content that's free added on top that we recently added called Crushing Passive Players. But if you haven't bought it already, you can also buy all of the course together, and it's currently priced at $77. Come over to our website. There should be a link in the description below to check out how you can buy that. It really does cover everything you need for low stakes spin and goes. But of course, these session reviews can be useful as well. Let's jump in and see what I Hate Spooning's game is like. So it looks like I Hate Spooning is playing $10 spins. They've hit a 5x multiplier. Nice to see. We have two players that they have no notes on. Oh, one of them is limping on the button. So immediately, straight away, I would be looking at this and marking them as a recreational player. I hope we go back and do that. It's more than 9 out of 10 people are recreationals when you do it, so it's worth making the label here. You can always take it off if you're wrong, but most of the time it's a good, nice, easy, quick indicator that your opponent isn't playing optimally. So immediately we have got top pair, good kicker, free-handed, not the driest or the wettest board. I personally would think about leading out here for 40 or 60 or 30 chips, just to try to protect my hand. I think it's a hand that does require quite a bit of protection. And when someone is passive on the button, you think that they might be passive post-flop as well. So I prefer to kind of take the initiative here. You do want to protect your hand. I think it's a little bit different. Let's say if you've got two pair here or a set or something like that, where you don't need as much protection, but here any queen, king, or ace is quite bad for your hand. So yeah, I would lead out here. You go with a check. It's not going to be terrible, but I think it would just be overall easier to play. Now that the 7 has come on the turn, you really do need to protecting your hand. I think that you need to be betting bigger because you're giving a really decent price for a lot of hands that have some sort of gut shot in them. So let's say they've got a hand like, even hands like ace 9 have a reason to call this bet. You really want to be putting those under pressure and getting as much value from them as possible. I would like a bet of 60, but even 90 might even be a good idea here. Really like just taking control. And if you do bet big, like 90 chips, and then you get raised, the likelihood is you're beat, so you can end up actually raise folding as an option. So now you're in a spot where I guess you just call. You don't want to build the pot up anymore. You could theoretically still be good. No idea what Omco is doing or representing or anything really here, so it's not the nicest spot. Once you got a decent sized bet and a call, I personally would let this one go. I would presume that we're going to be up against a straight or two pair at this point, or maybe a better top pair kicker. So yeah, that's what I would do. I think overall range wise, you should expect to be beat. Maybe not so much by the button limper's range, but the button limper could still have hands like ace 10, king 10, queen 10 that do beat you. So yeah, I think that's enough of a reason to make the fold. They have a straight. They have 8-4 off. So yeah, they were able to see the flop because of the button limp. So not too much to say about that. You got the note slug. Okay, interesting note. I see you got a HUD here. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. You do have, I think you have some hands here on one player who is on the button right now, who just potted from the button. So yeah, I think you got a 2 recreational player game. So this is good. Nice to see that the 10s are nice and soft, at least on the 5x that you've got. How did that hand go with the kings? Why was kings here? Oh, it's because it was a pot raise. Okay. We can't really gain too much information from that because we don't make those odd sizings. But yeah, I think if there's anything to gauge from here, it's that Gaozui, or I don't know how to pronounce their name, is being very, very passive so far. Wanting to see flops at least. Lots of calling as well. 6-7, just gonna check it all the way down. Don't see any reason to get out of line here, especially against these two opponents. You might be able to find really weak opponents that you can get away with some bluffs, but these people seem like not the people you want to be trying to bluff. If you knew their exact holdings, yes, you want to bluff that. Ace-2, I honestly don't mind the idea of just ripping it in, shoving all in against the button limp. You decide not to, that's okay. Yeah, not gonna judge that too much. Ace-2 could be good here. Really got to think about making that call. You snap call. I would think about it. I wouldn't snap call, I have to say. But yeah, I think calling's okay. I would definitely think about it though. King 10. Are we going to get a lead? I knew it. Don't know why. I just knew you were going to get led into. King 10, yeah, I think it's okay to just let that one go. You haven't really connected with the Jack 8-6 board. You have no backdoor flush draw or anything like that. So one thing you want to note now is Omko has both potted on the button and he has limped. So I can't remember what he potted. Don't think it was, I think it was something like Ace-8. We can go back. Try and find it. King Queen. Okay, so he potted King Queen and now he's limping. So if we can get information on what they are limping as well, might be able to start putting things together here. Let's see what they had. 7-9 of clubs. So they're now limping 7-9 of clubs and potting King Queen. You might be against someone you can get a lot of sizing tails against. So keep an eye out, I would say. Might be the kind of player that when they hit a big hand, they bet big, and when they have a speculative hand, they are betting small or being passive with it. Oh yeah. They were passive there with King 2. Okay. Not too much to gain from that information wise. So Ace Jack on a King 3 board, especially now that our opponent did lead into us the hand before. It was Jack 8-6 board. I think it's okay to bet here, and if you are betting, it's for value. So just recognize that you're not doing it as a bluff. You don't want to start barreling off unless you get a very good reason to. So bet flop for value / protection, even though you've only got ace high, because you expect their call range to be wide pre-flop, and then on the flop you expect them to lead a lot of their pairs, given what we saw on the Jack 8-6 board earlier. So yeah, I wouldn't start barreling off here. I wouldn't be trying to get a 3 or a 4 to fold. I don't really understand the purpose of this. I think you've got the best hand here very often, and checking back for them, allowing them to bluff rivers is probably gonna make you more chips in the long run than whatever that bet was for. I don't think your bet would get anything better than you to fold, and or anything worse than you to call. Maybe a few draws, yes, but even they could shove on you, and then you feel a bit silly. So queens, let's go and try and get some value against these players. No value, unfortunate, very unlucky. So we've got a raise and a call. Yeah, we want to call it. Looking at stats. So, this player, we've seen pot, mash, king, queen off. We've seen them limp 9-7 suited, and now they're min raising. This could be an incredibly strong hand that's kind of trying to trap, or it could be a weaker hand. We can't really pinpoint them on an exact combination here, I don't think. So yeah, I think you just got to let that go once you haven't hit 4-5. I do like trying to play a wide range against recreationals, definitely. I think that this turn card is actually one that I would keep betting even with my crappy hand like this. But I want to go bigger. I want to really put the pressure on. And because you didn't, now we've got to go all the way. Yeah, I don't like the sizing that you made on the turn, because I don't mind betting on the flop to try and take it down. Given that you expect your opponent to raise a lot of aces, I don't mind it. I think checking and giving up is probably the best play from the small blind. Being out of position is probably the best play. But once the king comes out, if you do want to bluff, again, so there are a lot of ways that I think it's okay to play. My play would have been to check and give up. Even though we're up against an opponent who has been fairly weak, fairly passive, I'm not going to be trying to make pure bluffs out of position in limped pots. I just don't think it's worth the chips that are in the middle to start bluffing off. But if I was to have bet the flop, I do want to bet the turn, because the king is a nice card for you to keep putting the pressure on. But I would want to go bigger. If I am going to bet, I want to go bigger. Now that you made a small size, that meant lots and lots of hands could call with a pair and a draw, or even bottom pair, middle pair. Gut shots can still call. Flush draws can still call. The river brings an opportunity to maybe shove, because you bet so small. So I think if you are going to bet the flop and the turn, now I think you have to be quite aggressive and just put the rest in. Yeah, and that's the reason why I think my favorite play is just, and my standard play would be, we haven't hit here at all. I'm going to check and I'm going to give up. Now, if you check the flop and they check behind and the king comes out on the turn, you can easily represent having a king yourself, because a lot of people with king high would try to get to showdown with it. So now you can represent it. So I wouldn't mind checking the flop. They check behind. King comes on the turn. We bet it once. See if we can take it down. If we can't take it down, let it go. So yeah, I think it's just an easier way to play it. Let's see. I think given your turn sizing, you probably do need to go all the way on the river. So I think it's like compounding mistakes here. I think this is actually quite a large mistake to have got yourself into, in that on the flop, I don't think you're going to get enough folds. On the turn, your sizing wasn't good enough to get lots of folds. So therefore, on the river, you have to start going all the way with it to maximize all those hands that have called and then are going to fold because they only had a pair and a draw or a gut shot or whatever. So yeah, I don't like how this hand was played, I have to say. Checking and giving up, that's probably the easiest and best option. So yeah, king 7, we want to put it all in, right? I just noticed that you do not have an all in button, which I find quite odd. Yeah, king 7 suited, I think that's a shove. Yeah, I would be definitely shoving that. I think that's another leak you got there. Don't think it's too big of an important one there, but I do think it is a leak. 6-3, I don't mind the fold. And now we watch these two. So Omco seems to be using lots of different pre-flop sizings. If they are someone you regularly see in your games, you really want to start trying to track what's going on. Given that you only just labeled them this hand, maybe you don't have this game, I should say. You don't have that information. When you are this short, I think it is feasible to be folding 6-5 off against the min raise. You're just going to be faced with a lot of aggression on the flop. And now, okay, so yeah, going back, let's go back to that hand because now we're getting more muddled up. Yeah, I think it's okay to just fold pre-flop, honestly. When you're getting this shallow, even though you are in position, it gets taken away by the fact that your opponent has initiative here. I think also given the fact that they've been very kind of passive kind of opponent and now they're raising, throws some alarm bells as well. I guess it's okay to call, but yeah, I think folding might be easier to play. Again, when you're playing low stakes, you're not trying to make the absolute perfect plays every decision. You're just trying not to make big mistakes. So like the 4-5 hand there ended up being quite a big mistake, I would say. You want to try to avoid those situations. Now you're 7 big blinds deep in the small blind. I wouldn't be trying to play that many hands at all at this point, this shallow. I think 10-2 is far too wide unless you're playing someone who is very easy to play post flop, and your opponent has not been that way, I would say, so far. If you've got them down to a T, as in like you know exactly what their post flop game plan and their pre flop game plan is, then you can maybe start incorporating, I don't know, hands like 10-5 off, 10-4 off, but 10-2 is getting, I think you're going to be losing quite a lot of chips by trying to play this in the long run. Works out this time because you got a really nice board of ace jack, but they don't happen too often, those two high card boards with an ace. And even then you might not get the fold. Oh man, is this a dirty spot to be in? Oh dear. So generally, oh my word. Yeah, so many alarm bells are ringing here. I would fold. I don't think it's so bad if you put it in. I don't think it's terrible if you go all in, but I would just let it go. You've only got 20 chips invested and I'm really not happy with this spot. It feels very strong. Good, nice fold. If you're playing someone that's just been constantly raising their button every time, then it's an easy shove. But yeah, especially given they're a button limper, I think the raise range that's non all in is going to be scary strong quite often. And given how short we are, I don't know if we have fold equity, so best case scenario is often we're flipping. So we are getting very short. So if you're playing 10-2, you're going to play 3-5, that's right. I think this is much more reasonable a hand to play than 10-2. But yeah, I think one of your problems might be in that you bet too much out of position in small blind versus big blind. I think that's a spot you might want to look at to figure out a better strategy here. Given that you are playing as wide as 3-5 off, I'm presuming you're just hoping that your opponent will fold a lot on flops. So that's why you bet out on king, king, queen, I presume. So I won't say too much about this hand. But in general, I would say it's quite likely you've got a leak here. In terms of how often you are betting out of position. King, queen, let's go. Against king 10, nice. Good stuff. Okay, so they 3x king queen again. That's a shame. You want to be able to see what they what they do those big raises with, other than the same hand twice. King 6. Let's go. Put it in. No, I don't like limping here at all. At all. This is just a waste of the hand. Yeah, you want to be playing shove or fold most of the time here. I guess you can try and get away with playing hands like Jack 2 suited, like Jack 4 suited, Jack 3 suited, Queen 2 suited, 10 5, 10 6, 10 4 suited. You know, hands like this, maybe 6 7 off, 6 5 off. Hands like that, you can try and like limp, but when you've got a hand that can easily just print money just by shoving, I think you should be shoving for sure. So I think that was a mistake. Over on with the hand with queens now, you got an interesting spot because the big blind is quite short. Yeah, I don't mind just shoving. I don't mind if you min raise. I don't mind if you... I think limping is not the best idea. So yeah, I think min raising or shoving are the better two. If they had two big blinds, I think limping is cool because you reopen the action. Or they would reopen the action by shoving. Queen Jack suited. You could make a small ISO if you wanted to against this opponent. Build the pot up. Strong hands. Yeah, I would be attacking their limps to start with. From the beginning, from the outset, I would be attacking them. Making lots of non-all-in raise sizes with hands such as Jack 6, just to see how they react. I'm presuming that because they're making those big raise sizes, that often their limping range is going to be a lot weaker than it should be. So I would do lots of non-all-in raises with bluffing hands like Jack 6. Yeah, when you don't raise, I think checking the flop is fine. I do like a bet. I think as long as you bet here, that's the important thing. Sizing, you could go anywhere between 60 and 160. I think they're all viable. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about too much about sizings there. As long as you are betting, that's the important thing. Well, that was a click raise. I think to start with, I would let it go. I'm struggling to understand or believe what they've got here. But I guess recreational players could have some ace highs that they should have raised the limp with and didn't. You don't really hit this board very well at all. So yeah, it's probably better to fold for now. It was a very fast raise. 9-7 suited. I like just putting him under pressure, the limps under pressure, definitely. Jack 9. We've hit the jack. Oh, okay. Right, well, we're getting this in. I'm expecting them to have a strong range here, for sure. But we've got a really nice strong hand, so let's go with it. Let's see how it works, how it runs out. I'm not expecting much folds from our opponent. So when they do fold, you need to make a mark here. You need to definitely make a note that they are raise folding 11 big blinds effective. That changes the kind of expected range you have for them, quite a lot. So I think it's the 3x raise size that you should be most wary of. And then the limps and the min raises may well be something you can really attack going forward. So for now, if you face that spot again and you're 11 big blinds deep, let's say you've got a hand like king 3 off and you face that raise. Now you've got a profitable spot here to shove, quite likely. It's a profitable spot if you are getting fold equity there, rather than calling or folding. It's going to be a better, more profitable play. Whereas beforehand it might look like a nightmare spot. Okay, so 10-7 you decided to check back. An ace, which is okay for your range. They lead out. And now we just want to see what they are doing that with. So they are leading out on the turn with bottom pair, no kicker. For a small size. I guess that means that if you ever check behind and they check the turn, the likelihood there is that they're going to be very, very weak. So you can delay c-bet any old trash, I would say, given that hand. Because if they're going to bet 7-5, why wouldn't they bet king 7? Why wouldn't they bet 8-5? Why wouldn't they bet king 8? Why wouldn't they bet queen 5? Why wouldn't they bet king queen? Right? Why wouldn't they bet if they have an ace for whatever reason? So yeah, I think that the likelihood is that they're betting all their hands once you haven't checked, once you checked, and you can really attack that. Queen 9, I think I'll try to go to showdown with it. I guess theoretically you could have attacked his limp, even at this stack size, because of you expect it to be like a very weak range. So I guess you could make it 2.5 big blinds to go pre-flop, and then fold if you got shoved on, even this short. But yeah, standard play, queen 9 would be check. You are actually in a fairly tough spot there, whether to call queen 9. Yeah, I think it's okay to fold though. 9-3 against this opponent, I guess it's okay to fold. I would have tried to play it though. I would have tried to see a flop still. King 2, I'm putting that all in. For sure, I'm putting this all in. I'm really going to attack this player's limps. And now that you didn't shove, yeah, no, I really want you to be shoving this against most opposition. The only kinds of players that you wouldn't want to do it against are people who are folding a lot heads up. And then when they actually start playing, let's say they're playing 50% of hands, then maybe you don't want to be shoving into them. But this has not been that. This player has not been like that. So now you're in a tough spot where you've got king high that you probably want to try and get to showdown. You've hit a 2 on the river, which is nice. Please no more bets. Oh god, it's a tiny bet. It's a really not nice spot to be in, especially given you know that they have done some silly small bets before. So they could be betting they could be betting for whatever reason with a 4 or a 2 themselves. So yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. I would call and start cursing if I see a 6 or a 4, but I think we got given 2 good odds. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're getting some sizing tells at this point. A lot of sizing tells coming from this opponent. The small bets have generally been weaker hands, and the big bets have generally been stronger hands. So yeah, I think we can go to town on them. Got the shove through. There we go. that's where I think the strong hands are. These 3x raises. I think that's where the strong hands are. I really think they are playing as simple as that. So 8-6 on this board, I don't mind just betting every single time against this opponent. I think it's fine. You could, because you now know how they're playing in delay c-bet spots, you could, once you've checked back the flop and they probe the turn with bottom pair no kicker for a small size, now that you've kind of getting this idea of maybe they've got some sizing tells here, I don't mind the idea of checking back a hand like 8-6, because if you see a small bet, you can start putting it under pressure, and if you see a big bet, you can just, if the turn card is bad enough, just straight up fold or call for implied odds. Anyway, now that you've bet and you've got min raised, I don't think that's a fold because you're in position. I think you've got to call that. You got the gut shot, you got the 8 that could be live, you've got the spades that could be live. It's not ideal, but you're getting very good odds. You're getting 80 into a pot of 400. So yeah, I think the odds are just too good at that point to be folding. Against our opponent, how they've played so far, I'm imagining that they are folding to our shoves too often. So I personally would be shoving 9-4 suited here. I think we're going to get more folds than we should. I'm getting that feeling. It is very much a feel type spot though, so I don't mind limping. We know how wide they can be probing. They have probed so far, so yeah, I like the call on the turn. The river, just painful that it comes out of free because they are betting exactly the sizing that normally you would want to attack, but now you don't because you've actually got the hand that you want them to have, the 4. Yeah, I would just call, given the fact that you're going to split enough, and every now and again, once in the blue moon, they're going to have a 6 or a 2 that they're trying to bluff. Yeah, it's just the odds, really. You kind of know how weak they are, right? 5-2 here. But you haven't got the right hand to attack with it. So if you're sitting there with a 6 in your hand for whatever reason, let's say you got Queen 6, you call the turn. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't mind raising them at some point, given how they've been playing, either the turn or the river. And we got to get it in with 8-10. Shucks. Oh. Damn. Oh well, GG. I think overall there's plenty of stuff to work on there. Obviously in that game you were the better of the 3 players, so there's that at least. But I think that the spots that you really want to look at are how to change your play style depending on the different types of players. Looking for those size tells. So the spots that I was talking about just then, in our low stakes spin and go course, I did a new module on passive players, and when I went into a little bit more detail on the video for that module, where I went into how you can start to have an idea of their overall game plan. Often you'll see sizing tells, often you see them limping some hands, raising some hands, making big raises with some hands, and you start to really just able to dissect and do everything they're doing and just take them apart. And maybe that's something you want to look at. Other than that, definitely small blind versus big blind freeway. I think maybe you're betting there too often. I can't say with absolute certainty that you are, because maybe you're just trying to exploit in those spots. But yeah, I think that's a possibility. Other than that, I'm glad to see the games are soft, but I would say that you should probably need to work on your game before moving up. Stuff like the king 2 hand against the limp should be a very standard shove in that spot. I didn't see any rhyme nor reason to not be shoving there. There was a hand with king 7 suited on the button that you didn't shove, or didn't even at least even think about shoving, I don't think. Again, I think those are all spots that you can work on before moving on up. Anyway, you were still by far the better player of those three, so good stuff. If anyone is watching and has enjoyed these session reviews, please, if you think that you would like to share your game, let me know. Come over to our Discord channel and tell me, because I would love to review any videos that anyone wants to send in for spin and goes, particularly low stakes, but I guess we also do some micro stakes ones as well. Now that we've got Sibi as well, we could even do mid and high stakes reviews. So yeah, if you're interested, give us a message over on Discord. Anyway, thank you all for keeping me company for these 30 odd minutes. Yeah, a lot to think about in that game. Not a lot of easy decisions in that one. So I hope that you guys got a few insights onto how I felt about the spot, and maybe learn some new adaptions to make, because that was a lot of what I was describing there was exploitative play rather than anything else, because very quickly and very early on we saw that both our opponents were not playing a solid game. So that's what we're going to do. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.